And if you think you're tuned into Cinema Hits and Misses, you are. We just swapped it up a little bit.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Dawn.
And I'm John.
And you are tuned into Cinema Hits and Misses. We're here on WMPG 90.9 FM and, of course, WMPG.org.
And if you want to call in, the number is 780-4909. What movies are we talking about tonight, guys?
So we are talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and The Dinner.
And why did we open up with Brandy?
Because that is on the Awesome Mix Volume 2 from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And what you got for the summary, John?
You know, some might say that Brandy's the greatest music composition of Earth.
Some might say.
Some might say
Some
that.
might say that, but let's get to the summary here. So we open up to the Guardians, made up of Peter Quill, or Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, and Baby Groot, waiting to take on the interdimensional monster known as the Obelisk. This creature's been going after a power supply of a species known as the Sovereign, and the Sovereign has asked the Guardians to defeat the beast. After a trying battle filled with shenanigans, the Guardians vanquish the beast. The Guardians receive their reward, Nebula, Gamora's sister, who they will return to Xandar. As they leave the planet, the group realizes that they are being chased by the Sovereign. Maybe Rocket took some of their power supply. After multiple attempts of shaking the Sovereign loose, they are saved by a mysterious ship. This ship follows the Guardians as they land on another planet. The owner of this mysterious ship? None other than Star-Lord's father, whose name is Ego. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is directed by James Gunn and stars Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel, Michael Rooker, Karen Gillan, and Kurt Russell. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it has the 81%, and 90% of audiences liked it. So, Ryan, what did you think of Guardians 2?
I really enjoyed this movie. I'm not sure between the first one or the second one. I'm still kind of debating. I need to see this for a second time to kind of take it in. But I really enjoyed it. I think for a sequel, James Gunn did, I think, above and beyond what, he could have done. A lot of the times when we get into, like, this second of a movie, especially in, like, comic book movies, it tends to dip. We've seen this before with Iron Man 2 and the second Thor movie, and in some of the X-Men movies as well. But I think what really helped this movie was it didn't have to be as connected to the whole cinematic universe that Marvel has set up. Because normally they'll have to, once they do one movie, the next one has to show its connection with everything. And I think since it's very cosmic and it's in the far corner of the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, that James Gunn could still do whatever he wanted and it would still make sense. And I think that with that, it made it more fun, and it took how much fun the first one was and cranked it up.
Yeah, I mean, you cover a lot of points that I was going to say. It felt like a good continuation of the first.
Mm-hmm.
Tonally, like the opening scene when they're facing off against the Obelisk is like, feels very much Guardians 1.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't mean like it doesn't ever take like any turns or anything.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually quite an emotional movie. And
I
I think what helps that is that Gunn was able to set up the characters well enough, for the most part, in the first movie, but then he was also able to flesh out those who may have not gotten as much screen time.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael Rooker, who plays Yondu, Peter Quill's adoptive father, so to speak, he was honestly my favorite part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he had some great moments. He had great range too. I think in the first one he was just a bit more like, he like played it very like silly, I guess, or like,
yeah,
but like that fit his character definitely a lot more for the first one, because he gets that awesome scene where he just has the arrow, one whistle, and then like knocks out a whole army, and it's awesome. So yeah, I think he provided a lot of great emotional moments too, and he had great range. Also, Karen Gillan, who played Nebula, didn't really have that much to do either. She was more like a mini boss in the first movie, and I thought they fleshed out her character definitely more, especially because they did a lot of pairings in this one.
Yeah.
So you had Peter Quill and Ego, who's played by Kurt Russell, and you had like Drax and Mantis, who's played by and I wish I had the name. You don't have the name either. Well, my apologies. I believe it's like Palm
Clementifes. I'm very sorry for that mispronunciation.
But so she plays a character known as Mantis, who is like a aide of sorts to Ego, and she, while not having as much screen time as say the others, I think she has her moments, and I think if this movie's any indication of like how they treat their characters, like those who don't get as much treatment get more later on, I'm interested to see what they'll do with her in the third movie. In the potential third movie, I'm assuming there's a third movie. I know James Gunn said he's working on it.
I think they greenlit it.
Have they already?
Yeah,
greenlit it?
I
Okay.
think that he's announced that he's gonna direct and write it.
Well, I'd certainly hope so. I think James Gunn's the only person I really want to control this franchise. What else? I'm trying to look through. Is there any other things?
One thing that really stood out for me as a story perspective, that it felt like similar to Star Trek Beyond, where it felt like a episodic TV show, which is really nice, because a lot of these kind of my earlier point about how separate it is from the other Marvel movies is, I think it feels like you're just having an adventure with these guys, and you have more fun, you get more character development, like you said, John. Don, what?
Well, popping back in here and say we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 here on Cinema Hits and Misses. And if you've seen this or our next movie, The Dinner, give us a call at 780-4909. That's 780-4909. I think I agree with a lot of your points here, especially what you were saying, Ryan, kind of feeling a little bit episodic.
Yep.
Because, and like Star Trek, the cast does split up in part of this. And again, no spoilers here, because it wasn't a...
It is in the trailer.
It's in the trailer. So you have... There are a lot of familial ties here.
Yep.
Of course, father issues, but also this band being together and split apart, and is there strength in their individuality or what they can do together? So in pulling them apart and kind of having each little segment, I don't think was the strongest tie in the movie. It was good, and it was good to see the Ravagers, especially the Sean Gunn's character, Kragan.
Yep.
To see that aspect of it, he and Yondu, and how their relationship is, and to pull in, of course, Gamora and her sister Nebula. Thank you. Because I was also thinking the new characters, Aisha.
Mantis and...
So for part of me, I was like, yes, girl power too. But it's like, okay, Gamora's an assassin. She's not always a cleanup girl.
Yep.
So that I felt a little let down, but I think there's potential. In how they built this up.
Yeah, I think that he did a lot of setup for... not like setup where we've seen in other sequels where it's like, oh, now we gotta wait to see what's going on. But I think setup for just character stuff that it gets you more excited to see everyone's relationship, and it'll be really interesting what he chooses for the story. Hopefully, like you said, have them all together. I don't know kind of what that would look like. Another thing I really enjoyed, and Don and John know this, I loved Baby Groot, played by Vin Diesel. He, for me, stole the show. What else did you enjoy, John?
I mean, obviously one of the highlights of the first Guardians was the soundtrack and the music that was played, and that was a big part of it, right? Because Peter Quill would listen to the Walkman that his mother gave him and the mixtape that came with it. And there's some great songs in there. Brandy, the one we just heard that it opened with. You had Fleetwood Mac's The Chain. You had Mr. Blue Sky by ELO, and now I'm going to start forgetting the others. But My
Sweet Lord, George Harrison,
yeah,
Surrender, Cheap Trick.
Yeah, I mean, They're
It's always
great.
good with Cheap Trick.
Oh,
Great.
yeah.
And I know sometimes we give complaints that like sometimes music is just thrown into the movie, almost like I say sometimes like it feels like someone left their playlist on. I feel like it just because they set that up in the first one, like it totally, but also it works, but it also just fits the scene. I think. James Gunn has an understanding of like what the tone, like what is supposed to be happening in those scenes. So by having the right music accompany it, it just works so well.
He's one of those directors like Quentin Tarantino and Cameron Crowe that are so good with music that they can use it as the score, and they know how to place it so well. And even like the obscure like juxtaposition, you're gonna get like in Reservoir Dogs with Stuck in the Middle with You, that I can never hear the same again after that movie. But they do such a good job, and I love those movies. And I think that we had talked about it stands out for like a comic book movie. Like we mentioned, Deadpool does the same thing where you have more fun with it when you have songs that or songs that don't really make sense in the movie, but like you can still enjoy them.
Well, and Iron Man,
And Iron Man, yes.
films, when you have a budget where you can afford the music, it's great. I mean, it's also as people who appreciate music, it's wonderful to have an original score.
Yep.
And I think having Tyler Bates here too with some original music helped. But this compilation of music, I think. It's fun.
Yeah.
That opening.
Oh, the opening's so good.
With this
I won't give it away.
character.
That opening is so good.
So, when you reintroduce to the characters and what they're doing as the good and the bad, and maybe a little bit of both.
And the ugly.
And the ugly. So, it just times so well with the music. And yeah, it's a little campy. And this isn't I'm going to win awards for characters.
No.
This is a popcorn, I'm going to have fun with these characters and park my disbelief for a couple hours and
It's
enjoy it.
It's a good fun time, like a blockbuster should be, at least in most instances. I definitely recommend like going to see this in theaters for sure.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, if you like the first one, tonally it feels the same.
Yeah,
like,
it feels
aside
like
from like added emotion.
Yeah.
I mean, and it works too because it builds off the characters well. I think if you like the first one, you're gonna like this one.
Yeah, like even though like I'm really praising this movie, and at the beginning of the show I said I'm not sure which I like more. It might sound I like the second one more, but for me it's really hard to decide because the emotional tone I think that might push it over between the two because the first one had moments of emotion, especially with Rocket Raccoon's character played by Bradley Cooper. But this one definitely had a wider range, and I'd also like to give praise to Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother, because he also does the motion capture for Rocket Raccoon, and some of the lines, like in the first one when he says "Now we're all standing," that was ad-libbed by Sean Gunn. So then later Bradley Cooper would say it, but man, he gives a great performance throughout the whole movie, and like I'm so excited to see his character in Volume 3.
Yeah, it's been good to see a supporting character step up.
Yeah.
And really carry the weight. And I think, it's a sign of a good director and actor partnership. I mean, yeah, they're brothers, but I think they have that professionalism. And of course, James Gunn and Michael Rooker have worked together for a few films now. And you also see that. And, again, no spoilers, but there are some emotional ties here. And like I was telling the guys in my theater, I had been waiting in line with a family, and we were at different sides of the theater by the time the show started, and the boy with him, maybe about 10 or so, and something happens, and all of a sudden this kid lets out a wail and starts bawling. He was crying, and people were kind of chuckling, what have you. And I was like, this is a sign actually of pretty decent writing that a character can move you that much.
And you don't see that often in blockbuster movies at all.
No, and it's a comic book character, but a character that can move you to that depth. I wanted to cry along with him.
Yeah, I teared up. And I know the scene she's talking about, and I teared up. Oh my God.
So, if you haven't seen it already and you like this, this genre, I think we're all saying definitely see it in a theater. I mean, you might have waited a weekend to let the crowds die down a little bit, and Yeah, it may or may not happen. It's not going to be a great weekend, so it may still be busy, but I think it's going to be in theaters for
A while.
a few weeks,
Yeah.
and even with some of the blockbusters coming up. So, anything else we want to add about the Guardians?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I feel like we covered everything.
And I was hopping out because our lovely engineer and DJ Justine we're getting a track ready that I recorded in Tribeca because we're trying something different for this segment. I was in New York a couple weeks ago at Tribeca Film Festival working with one of our auxiliary reviewers, Joan, and we pre-recorded. So we've got a synopsis and some feedback recorded, and then we're going to bring it back to the studio where I know Ryan and John are ready to talk about The Dinner. From Cinema Hits and Misses, and I am at the Tribeca Film Festival with my friend and colleague, Joan Langell. How you doing, Joan?
I'm doing fine. I'm with my fearless leader over here, and we're tearing up the streets of Manhattan.
There we go. And one of the first movies we saw during the festival was The Dinner, starring Richard Gere, Stephen Coogan, Rebecca Hall, and Laura Linney. From the write-up, at one of the most fashionable restaurants in an unnamed town, two estranged brothers and their wives meet for an uncomfortable conversation. Stan Lohan is a popular congressman running for governor. His troubled younger brother Paul is a caustic former teacher. When Stan invites Paul for a dinner, the stage is set for a tense night. While the two brothers are constantly at odds, their 16-year-old sons are close friends, and the two boys soon become the center of the conversation as family secrets are dredged onto the table along with the main course. This is written and directed by Oren Moverman. It's an ensemble cast, an intense, twisty psychological drama about class, family, and accountability. Joan, what did you think about The Dinner?
Well, The Dinner, it's funny that I just came back from Europe, and I had experienced a Michelin dinner such as they had in the movie. And there was one line where somebody like Paul, I believe the Steve Coogan character, that he wanted to go out for a pizza. Right. I said, I think the man had the right idea.
Yeah, it's set in this backdrop of a beautiful villa.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had experienced, like a chateau.
As the drama unfolds, you see the backdrop of each course. You see the aperitif, the main course, the cheeses. So each segment of the movie had that in script.
Well, yeah, that was a very good. I did like the way that was posted, but that's exactly how they did it at this particular chateau in Luxembourg, I believe it was. It was broken down that way, and the maitre d' would come over and describe every inch of this little, like 2x4 piece of food on your plate.
Yeah.
So I can understand Paul, the character Paul. I think the average person is saying, well, why does it have to be explained that way? Why does food have to be served that way?
Right. And as the story unfolds, as the courses become a little bit more extravagant and rich, you learn more and more about the characters. You learn a little bit more about Stan and Paul's relationship, about the relationships with the wives, and the ever-unfolding story about the two sons. For me, I thought the roles were performed and directed well. I wasn't a fan of how the story was told overall. There was some stylization that took me out of the movie a little bit. There was a tie-in to the Civil War. Paul, being the history teacher, had this affinity for the Civil War, and that was an overlay. And I get they might have been going for a brother versus brother tone, but I didn't think it was necessary to the story for me. I thought the dinner and the story of the younger sons far more interesting.
Well, that was always in the back of my mind because the film did open up with the horrendous crime. And when they sat down, not only was like Paul extremely disturbed with this type of a dinner they were having, and also the conflict between the brothers, that is, they're like oil and water, that they didn't really resolve anything about the sons. They started to talk about their own lives, and that escalated. So that disturbed me a little bit. I said, well, when are they coming back? And if they wanted to get together and decide what to do about their two sons, how are they going to resolve it? And they never came to that. But I do understand that the director had handed each one of those excellent actors the script. He says, it's all dialogue, 4 of you around a table, go for it. I thought that was magnificent.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
So
Beautiful, innovative.
So I think for some twists and some good dialogue and family dynamics, I think the dinner could be an option for our listeners. For how it unfolds, again, I'm not a fan. There were camera movements in there that were unnecessary, and again,
Confusing.
It took me out of the story.
Yeah.
Because of the way that there were random zooms, and a zoom or a slow focus in would create tension, but the way it was done didn't. It just took me out of the movie. So I'm mixed on this, but I think if you're a fan of the actors, I think that
they saved
it'd be
it.
worth seeing. Certainly a home viewing or a matinee for me. Full price, probably not. So I think
Well, the only thing to me that saved the film that they were 4 excellent actors, and I think I might have said it before.
yeah. Of course, we're not going to give away any spoilers about Resolution, but again, this is The Dinner with Richard Gere, Laura Linney, Steve Coogan, Rebecca Hall, and Chloe Sevigny, and this is Dawn and Joan talking from Cinema Hits and Misses.
And if you're just tuning in, this is Cinema Hits and Misses, like Don just said. And if you'd like to call in about the movie we're talking about right now, The Dinner or Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the number is 780-4909. Now, John, how'd you think about The Dinner?
Well, I know sometimes people like to exaggerate how they feel about a film.
Yeah?
But I will say right now, The Dinner is the worst movie I've seen this year. Without a doubt. And I think it's mostly rooted in terrible characters. Now,
They're awful people.
they're all awful people. And I'll agree with Joan. The performances are great. However, great performances only go so far.
I would like to defend that there is only one person that is good in this movie, and that is the waiter, because he had to deal with everyone. And he had to deal with
Michael Chernus.
Yes, he had to deal with that very infamous cheese.
I really despise this movie. I was just cringing on the inside every time. There was, like you said, there's that whole thing with the Civil War. It felt like they just shoved in an art house movie in the middle of it and had nothing to do really with anything, it felt like, to the overall story. And I think the biggest problem is that this film, like the character, the point of view we're coming from, which is the Steve Coogan character, it should have been Richard Gere.
Yep.
That's all I'm gonna say. I think it should have been him because they're just it's so. I would
so
like.
bad.
I'm trying
Having
my best
not read
not
the
to
book,
yell.
it's hard to say. I think you're on to something there, John. That the point of view could have shifted, and there could have been a more cohesive movie here, and probably the book reads better.
Yeah.
But man,
Possibly.
I felt I was watching 3 different movies, and none of them were good. That the beginning part felt like a thriller, and I saw the trailer when I'd seen Colossal, and I was like, I know we're probably gonna see it for the show. I'm like, okay. And the beginning part has like the thriller aspect. There's nice like tension music, and then it just cuts to like this, not even like French music or like dinner music, like I forget if it was disco or something, and I'm like, you just cut this movie. What are you doing? And then we jump to the Civil War part, and I'm like, I'm watching a Ken Burns documentary.
Yeah, I don't know why why Moverman went with a Civil War theme. I mean, I get it because of the history professor and the brother versus brother, but there is so much here with family dynamics that he could have dived into, and, a plethora that could have happened right around a round table. I think it's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and then like the other movie was just a family drama that could have been shown on like Hallmark, or not even Hallmark,
Maybe.
like what is it?
Lifetime.
But even, yeah, it's a Lifetime movie.
It's a dark Lifetime movie.
That is
there.
Yeah.
Some of those babysitting movies are pretty bad.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know. I feel like when it came to the situation that they were trying to deal with, there's only one right answer, but everyone is trying to avoid it. Mm-hmm. And from a moral perspective, it makes no sense. Like, if they're trying to like ground this thing in reality, I did not by it at all. Like,
Well,
'cause
there's
no one would act like that.
No.
Like, I'm trying to be bestial, like, not to like give anything away, but I feel like in this situation,
None of them are in the right,
no, well, except for one,
except for the waiter.
Well, no, I think one of them is right with how to deal with it.
Yeah.
But it's just such a headache.
This movie.
And now I told Ryan this, and I know this really isn't much for comparison, but one of my least favorite movie last year was Yoga Hosers. I would rather watch that again than watch The Dinner. And that's saying a lot.
This movie was 2 hours long. It felt 4 hours long. And like during the halfway point, during that Civil War sequence, I turned over to John. I'm like, how long is this movie? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, we both looked at each other as like, we want to leave.
Yeah.
And what was interesting...
I was going to fall asleep, but I knew I had to do for the show, so I
is-
didn't.
What was interesting is at our showing, there was this couple there afterwards. They talked about how they liked it. I would have loved to have talked with them. Like, it would have been interesting just to hear their perspective. And all I really heard was that they said it was dark. And I would love to have a discussion
part
about that.
of what I'll defend about what we were saying about characters and the actors
Yes.
and such excellent performance. Think about how likable all these actors are in
Yep.
other roles and how much you hated them
Yeah.
at the end of this.
I hated Steve
like I
Coogan
said,
so much. And it was not just because of his American accent.
I mean,
Yeah,
like,
the American accent was
good
very bad.
performances,
But,
but good performances can't hold up if the rest of the movie is awful, in my opinion.
yeah, so
Avoid it.
when I saw it and when we recorded it, we'd come fresh out of it, and I think I was still stunned by it, and it's like, okay, there's got to be something here, and so I really wanted your perspective,
Yeah.
and so when we were talking about movies last week, I was like, okay, maybe we'll see it, and
Yeah.
I feel
It's
I'm
okay.
bad now, but
No, it's fine.
if we can help,
We see bad movies so you don't have to.
exactly,
Pretty much.
and at that point, hey, we're done here.
Yep.
Next week it's Gail and
Terry.
Daddy G
Daddy
is
G,
coming
that's
on
right.
staying later. And Justine is at the board. She's got some gist to take you through to Between the Notes.
Have a good weekend.